Welcome back. I'm speaking with Steve Ellner about Venezuela. Now, Steve, Venezuela is experiencing runaway inflation and persistent food shortages and supply shortages. You live there most of the time. How bad is it really?
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult situation. It's created a lot of tension because of the shortages of basic commodities and the system of regulated prices. People stand online, and there are a lot of instances of people who make a living out of doing this because of the, as I mentioned in the first part of the interview, the unofficial prices are much higher than the official ones. And so people wait online in order to purchase these products, and then they sell them on the black market. And also, there is considerable contraband of products going directly from warehouses, perhaps, to neighboring Colombia. So this is taking place on different scales, and it's creating a problem. People who don't want to wait online, mainly middle-class people who aren't willing to wait online for hours at a time, have to purchase these goods at a much higher rate. So there is, a black market, a thriving black market, and a lot of discontent.
Now, in addition to all of this, we also have a drought going on, which is adding to President Maduro's problems at this time. What is the extent of that drought, and how long do you think it will last? Venezuela is usually a very lush and rainy tropical climate, but they are experiencing a drought that seems unusual.
Yes, unusual in terms of its intensity. Venezuela has not had a drought of this proportion since about the 1940s, I believe, and as a result, Venezuela is dependent on hydroelectric. 70% of the electricity is hydroelectric, and most of that comes from one dam, the Guri Dam, in the Guayana region of Venezuela. And until it starts raining, and the prediction is that heavy rain will commence in mid-May. So in a couple of weeks, the problem should be solved. But meanwhile, there are power outages and blackouts every day, sometimes lasting for several hours.
Steve, if President Maduro is going to withstand a recall referendum, he's going to have to improve the conditions in Venezuela rather rapidly. He's facing declining oil prices, an economic crisis that involves triple-digit inflation, these persistent shortages you're talking about, and now add to that this drought, and so many things going on that he has to get a grip on. So if you were advising him and you're at Miraflores today, what would you be saying to him?
Well, one thing I would say is that he's got to take a bolder approach. Maduro is not a man of action, as Chavez was. Chavez made decisions and wasn't afraid to go to battle and rally the people on his side. Maduro is very slow to act. Just to give you one example, he stated at one point that the price of gasoline in Venezuela, which is, again, one of these products that are artificially low, in fact, extremely artificially low, the lowest in all of the world, as a matter of fact. And he recognized the fact that prices had to increase, and he said that he would choose the right moment, the right opportunity to increase prices. And a year went by before he decreed a price increase of gasoline. And that's just one example of his slowness to act. The situation requires a bold approach. Another example, I think, is the war on corruption. I think that what's happening in Venezuela demonstrates that a country a movement that comes to power on the crest of popular mobilization, in a situation in which it seems as if there's a great amount of empowerment among the popular sectors of the population, that inevitably, at a certain point, you're going to have a problem with bureaucracy. And the remedy for that is a democratic situation in which people have some input in decision making, and a political party that is semi-autonomous. And that's really not the case in the case of the PSUV, the governing party. The governing party is run by, people who are connected with the state, national deputies, governors, mayors, so that you should have more independence in order to have more of a direct input in decision making coming from below. Those would be two pieces of advice that I would offer President Maduro if he were to ask me.
All right, Steve, I thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be keeping an eye on this motion for a recall referendum, and I hope you join us again. Thank you.
I certainly will. Okay, thank you.
And thank you for joining us on the Real News Network.